Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Konich-Yeehaw podcast. I'm Jared,
And I'm Natalie.
and today we're going to be talking about anime figures. So, typically well, Natalie, do you own any anime figures?
Well, no. I I own one that's anime-ish, but it's not like from an anime.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah. It's a My Little Pony figure, but it's like a humanoid version and it looks like an anime character.
Yeah, it's the Shoujo Pinkie Pie. Shoujo Pinkie Pie.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, have a number of anime figures. It's nothing to the level of like a problem yet. It's only like 10.
10.
Yeah.
Wait, let me count them real quick.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that's 10.
Okay. Wait, no, that doesn't include. Yeah. Okay, never mind. I have a few. I have a couple.
He has a few.
But that does bring us into what exactly defines an anime figure, because there are a lot of different. When I was looking this over, I kind of categorized into 4 different figures. So first you have the statue figures. So those are going to be the stereotypical figures that are motionless. They're just a plain statue. That's typically what most figures you're going to find are going to be. They kind of range. They can range from being very affordable to very not affordable. Mm-hmm. There are some very large. I think it was a Final Fantasy 14, I think, statue just went up for pre-order, or the pre-order is about to go up. $14,000.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's very much a pricey business.
Yeah, right. Most of mine aren't super expensive though. I've tried to keep it pretty down. But then on next after that would be Figmas. So Figma and Nindroid. Those are 2 more pricey figures, and they're both owned. They're both sold by the Good Smile company, which is a very well-known company when it comes to anime figures. So what sets them apart is that they're posable. So they're fully articulated. They're very high quality. I'm gonna say maybe on average between $60 and $100. Like they're not very cheap. Mm-hmm. They're very high quality, and you get a lot of things with them. So for example, with like typical statue figures, you have one face, you have one look, that's exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. But with Figma, a lot of the times you get different faces, you get accessories, just different things that you can play with it. And like I said, the big thing about those is that they're fully articulated, so you can put them in a bunch of different poses.
Yeah.
Now, Nindroid are very similar, but the main difference is that while typically statue figures and Figmas are to scale, so they're exactly the same as the characters, Nindroids are actually chibi versions. So if you don't know what chibi is a cartoon or a cute version of a character. So they have big heads, they're gonna have small bodies, small limbs. Sometimes the hands aren't fully drawn, they're just nubs.
Yeah.
And that's what Nindroids look like. Mm-hmm. They're very popular. They're kind of like an upgraded pop figure. Yeah. So pop figures are, one look, basically statues, just like the standard anime figure. But with Nindroids, they're still high quality, but you also get, like, just like the Figmas, you get different faces, you get accessories, different things to go with it. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, we have model kits. So model kits are very interesting when it comes to figures, because they also can range from very cheap to very, very expensive. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how it is for other model kits, but for the Gundam model kit, so before I go on, model kits, what makes them so different is that you have to put it completely together. So they comes with this PVC sheet, and there are different parts that are numbered, and so you have to cut them and like cut them out with like ply or wire cutters, and then put them together, and that's what makes them so different and customizable as well. So there's actually a big whole group, group. There's a large group of people that do custom model kits. So they'll paint them differently, they'll interchange parts to make that really their own and a one-of-a-kind thing. And with with Gundam, the model kits actually have a grading system. So you have master grade, you have high grade, you have perfect grade, all of these different things, and that explains like, okay, so this is a master grade, so it's gonna be kind of medium on the difficulty level, or high grade. High grade is gonna be like this is my first model kit. The pieces aren't super detailed. Like, you're not gonna, like, typically for like a chest piece, you're gonna have like 2 pieces maybe, a front and a back that go together, with some things in the middle. But with like a master grade, it might be, okay, so now you have individual pieces for these little details that go together. So there are a lot of different things that play into it. Also, the higher the grade, more expensive it's going to be, because there are more parts, different things like that.
Yeah.
And I think collecting is something that's really interesting. I mean, I guess I'd say I consider myself a collector. Is there anything that you collect?
I do collect, or I mean, I guess I don't really like so much add to this collection anymore, but I did collect the My Little Pony minifigures. They were like blind box toys. They're like tiny. So it's nothing hard to collect, I guess is what I mean. It's not something that it's not pricey. It's not pricey at all. It is a gotcha though. So in that way, I do think that my collection isn't quite complete because I just haven't found certain ones.
Right.
But that's really the only thing that I think that I can say that I collect, really. So I'm personally not, I'm not very huge into the figure scene, the anime figure scene. Like, it's not really something that I look forward to whenever I go to conventions. Personally, I usually go more for art prints.
Right.
And definitely a lot more because of the price difference. Art prints tend to be cheaper, but also I don't know what I would do with them. I don't know where I'd put them personally.
Okay, so no, I totally get that. We have specific spots for where my figures go, and I do have a couple doubles. So I like, with the exception of one, I only have figures from the Monogatari series, and so whenever I go to conventions, I look for very specific figures. Now, I know that there are people that aren't like that. They'll go to a convention and just be like, what's there. Yeah, they just see it and then they're like, want it. I want this. Here's my money. And that is so wild to me. Because for me, I have to like really like a character. Like, this character has to go above and beyond, for me to want to have like a figure of it. Yeah. Something like physical in my home. Like,
to show off that you really like this character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right.
Well, so you have a number of, Godzilla stuff too.
That is true. Yeah. I do have some Godzilla stuff.
Yes, and I know that you're also looking.
Yes. So okay.
Still on the lookout for the Godzilla stuff.
there was a vendor at San Japan, or maybe it was Ikicon. I think it was San Japan, and
these are Texas-based conventions, by the way.
So, no, it was Ikicon. So, he was an old man, very little English, and he was just selling, a majority of what he sold were like old, like, Japanese, like kimonos and things like that. Like Japanese culture things.
Yeah.
And then also like old Godzilla toys. And it's a very specific one. It's like 2007. It's like they did a release of Godzilla PVC toys that came out, I think it was like 2007, 2008, something like that. And those ones, they're like really high quality and they're really nice. And so out of a whim, I just kind of grabbed one and I was like, this one looks cool. It was before I really got super into Godzilla. And so I just grabbed one and I have never seen him since. And I'm just like, I even went to the like
the website roster?
Yes, I went to the roster of vendors to try to find him.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like a part of a big company.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And so I've never seen him again. I wish I could, so I could buy a lot more from him because there are quite a few that I want.
Yeah.
But I mean, and there are a couple that I can find on Amazon, but they're a bit expensive. Well,
yeah, and I would say that like I know that some fans do purchase figures on either on Amazon, or I'm talking anime specifically. So like anime figures on Amazon. There's a very like, I haven't looked super into the anime figure like scene on Amazon. I don't really know what's there. I know, but basically what I'm saying is I don't know what the quality is. I'm sure that there's a bunch. I don't know what the quality is.
So the biggest thing about Amazon is that there are a lot of figures that you'll see at conventions, but they don't have Prime, and so they'll be more expensive than if you just waited to go to a convention.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna get at, is that for anime fans, a lot of us do wait for conventions to buy anime merch.
Yeah.
Like just in general, like anime merch, whether it be pins, keychains, art.
Right.
Like we usually wait and buy from a convention because it's gonna be first of all like a higher volume, more options. There's gonna be more options all in one place where there usually isn't. I mean, Hot Topic can only go so far. You know, they only cover about 4 anime.
Right.
So if you are, you know, watching something that isn't in like more mainstream Western culture, you wait for an anime convention, or you wait for an artist convention, because we're going to an artist convention soon.
Yeah.
To acquire more pieces for your collection, and I think that that's like compared to like collecting non-anime things is pretty unique. I don't really know how other people collect, if that makes sense. Like
are there like I mean, I imagine anything that has a convention probably has vendors. So when it comes to like maybe like special edition things and like things like that, then I imagine that's how it is. So basically, when I think of collecting in a Western sense, I first go to Star Wars. I always first go to Star Wars because that's just the thing.
Huge market in Star Wars collectibles.
And so I imagine the like really like exclusive collectibles are probably where they go to like vendors and things like that to try to find. But like everyday stuff, you can go to Walmart and find.
Yeah, or like online. I feel like a lot of stuff like gets sold online, like not through Amazon, but like eBay. through eBay, through the company itself. Like I don't know if Lucasfilms or I guess now Disney like sells official things, you know, and like that's how people are gonna buy it is online. Right. I mean, they're gonna wait forever for it, but
But yeah, no, I think that's a super good point, because like, I mean, I've tried looking up the company that sells my figures, because all of the figures I have for the Monogatari series, I think except for 2 of them, are all from the same company. And so I've tried looking up the company, but it's just not really a thing.
Yeah, it's easier to just wait for a vendor, like at a convention. Do you know how vendors get them? Do you just happen to know?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
That's something that I've always wanted to know.
All right. If anybody out there knows how
do vendors get their merch? That's
figures
what we want to know.
Figures in particular.
Figures specifically.
Because they also have huge amounts of them. Yeah. Like, I mean, you got to imagine a convention is 3 to 4 days, right? 3 to
4 days typically.
Yeah, and they have to have multiples of everything. They have to have a good amount of variety.
Right. Because there's like one vendor specifically, I'm pretty sure, that like he always just has like, it's like, I swear it's like 3 standard sized tables that go straight across.
Yeah.
I swear he has like 2 booth sets, like 2 slots.
Yeah.
And it's just packed with them. And I'm just like, how?
I'm sure that it also has something to do with just being in collaboration with that company or with multiple companies. You know, I mean, bring it to America. I mean, if maybe he's investing in it, you know, like he invests his own money and then he gets it back.
Right.
Who knows? But yeah, I would say the main way that anime fans get figures is through conventions, and I mean all types of figures too, not just the statues. I think, like, whenever I think of it, I think mostly statues, but I know that they definitely sell all sorts of others, like the model kits and
definitely,
and the other types too, and that they are
plushes.
Oh yeah, plushes is a really big market. We didn't even really think about plushes.
Yeah, I just thought plushes are a pretty big market, but it depends on what you're going for, because I actually at a lot of conventions, most plushes that I see aren't exactly anime focused.
Yeah,
but they're like
just kawaii aesthetic focused.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess I was kind of just wondering, we can talk about how collecting kind of like compares to other like fan practices, because it is a fan practice that is literally just based in consumerism. Yeah. It's literally just based in spending money. Like,
yeah, I think it's unique in that aspect, because with collecting, unless you have like an absolutely massive collection that you've spent thousands of dollars on, and then you document that collection, you're really the only person that's gonna see it.
Yes, that's an interesting point, like being the only one who sees it. Because whenever you think of other fan practices, like fan art, fan fiction, or video... Cosplay even. I mean, the idea is that you will showcase that in some way.
Yeah.
But whenever you're collecting, it really is for yourself, and it really does take a lot of your money. Not necessarily time, but a lot of your money.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that that's interesting, I guess. Just that, like... the idea of like, I'm sure companies love this, but like the idea that like you can just consume a product to prove your fan identity, like you can just buy their stuff, and like there's like this idea, right, in collecting, that the more of it you have, the bigger the fan you are, or like the more you know about it, or something like that. And that's why like corporations love people who collect, because they're just spending money.
Right.
They're just spending money. They're not changing it in the way that like fan fiction or fan art can change the original source material.
It's way safer for companies too, and for the fans, because like with like fan art, fan fiction, things like that, if it gets to a certain level, you have to worry about like copyright and things like that. But with collecting, it's literally just, company puts this out, I buy this.
Grab it because you love it so much.
Yeah, there's no creation, there's no like creativity in it. It is solely like capital.
Yeah. And yeah. I just think that's neat. Or interesting, I guess I should say. Obviously, I don't have a huge collection of anything, so I have not spent a lot of my monies on things.
Right. I, as you know from the from our top 10 list, go back and watch that.
Oh, okay.
I am a very big fan of the Monogatari series.
Mm-hmm.
So I collect things like Monogatari series things.
Mm-hmm.
So I have almost all of the novels, which is
So like 12?
16.
16? Okay.
It's 16 books. Then, I own 10 different figures for the Monogatari series. Like, it is something that I enjoy collecting. And I really don't make like fan art or like fan fiction or anything like that. And so it is weird thinking about it in like that way of this is just a like I am buying this for my enjoyment alone. And no one else is super. I mean, you see it.
Yeah.
You have to deal with it. But I mean, no one other than like people that come over, no one's really gonna see it. No one cares about it.
Yeah.
I don't gain anything from it.
Yeah, except for, well, I guess that's the other part of it is that, just a little segue, is how anime figure collection, like, the bias, I guess, against it. I mean, there is some bias against it,
Yes.
like, of the person who collects the anime figures, who spends a lot of money on anime figures, how that compares to the person who spends a lot of money on Star Wars stuff. Because, I mean, like, for example, we're using Star Wars as an example. I mean, you could easily just say, like, Marvel, DC, like, any, like, Western media property that's been around for a while. Like, usually that is seen as more impressive, I would say. That's usually, like, documented more in a positive light in TV. But
I will say it is still, I'd say it's still seen as pretty negative. And the reason for that is because with a lot of Western things like Star Wars, a lot of people say in their 40s or so, or not even that, I'd say like people that are not fans, they see this as oh, you're collecting toys. Or like, oh, why are you wasting your money on these things, that have no like practical use to them. Things like that.
They're just kind of cool.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that there is two different views though of like there is a difference between a Western collector and an anime collector. And that comes down to so Star Wars collectors seen as more childish because it's like Star Wars, that's for kids and things like that. Now, anime collectors, they're kind of seen more as creeps. And one of the reasons for that is because anime figures are so sexualized. That is probably one of the biggest differences between like Western and anime is that anime figures are so sexualized.
Yes, and that's like all anime figures, because we talked about it a little bit off, like, outside the podcast when we were brainstorming, but it's not that Western figures aren't can't be sexualized, because then you think of, I was like, well, what about Harley Quinn? Like, all of her figures.
Slave Leia.
Yeah, Slave Leia. Like, that's all super sexualized. Like, that's, that. But there's something in the way that anime is drawn. Like, if you think of a 1-to-1, like, ratio model of an anime character to, like, Leia, I mean, like, the ratios are going to be different, and that means that it's going to look more sexual because the legs are going to be longer, the poses is going to be
long, slender legs,
the pose is going to be more extreme, I mean, stuff like that. The eyes are bigger, the hair is longer and flowy, like, all the stuff that comes with the exaggeration that is in anime or in any animation.
And even with like non-sexual, like a majority of my figures, no, literally all of my figures are non-sexual. Like I don't have any big busty characters or anything like that. But a majority of them also, the like people that made the figures made sure to put details in the underwear.
Because you can see the upskirt.
Yeah, and so like these non-sexual characters have become sexual because they, you know, made a point to like make the underwear with stripes or something like that.
Yeah.
You know? And I mean, there are even figures that like their whole thing is just that it's sexual. I mean, like Supersonico.
Yeah, I brought up Supersonico.
Supersonico is everywhere, especially in the figure scene.
In the figure scene, yeah.
So you may not know Supersonico
That's
as a collector.
Yeah, that's not a problem because I don't even know what Supersonico does.
I don't either. But you know what? I could.
But I know what she looks like.
If someone showed me a picture, I'd be like, yeah, that's Supersonico.
That's Supersonico. Yeah.
But for some reason, it's like this is something that's an anime figure that I don't even know if it has an anime. I don't know if she's a Vocaloid.
What the content is with this character. But it's all about the ownership. And I think that that's another thing that kind of like bleeds into the like otaku realm. If you watched our Otaku versus Weeb podcast on YouTube, you'll maybe remember I put an image of the otaku from Perfect Blue of him having his hand out. And in the scene, that is him pretending that Mima is a doll, pretending that Mima is his figure. So, like, it's the idea of, like, something that you can hold, something that you can have, something that's yours. And I think Supersonic, like, characters like that, characters that almost exist outside of their, or, like, it becomes that they exist outside of their property, and now they're in your home, and they belong to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd say the same with like Hatsune Miku. Like,
yeah,
doesn't even have an anime, but
is gone.
She is, yeah. But yeah, she is the most popular anime icon.
Yeah.
She has 1 million figures and
a million different outfits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think is really interesting with figures that are like not super like specific as to what they're from, is that they can sell even more. Like Hatsune Miku, Supersonico, these are characters that you don't buy them because of like the anime is so good, I just need the character. You buy them because they're visually appealing. And so because they have all of these different outfits and all of these different poses, and you can buy all of these different figures. Like, Hatsune Miku is the corporation's, like, best friend.
Yeah.
Because they don't even have to make media
to
sell.
Hatsune Miku, yeah.
They just have to make the figures. I think it's GX, it's Grand Prix, I think. It's literally like NASCAR racing. And there's a figure for Hatsune Miku every single year. And they sell out immediately. Like, it's crazy.
And I guess, so the last two things that we kind of wanted to talk about, one of them was just pop figures in general.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that pop figures, you know, they're everywhere. They're both at conventions and at the Hot Topic and at the Walmart and at the Target. Like, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
They're very normalized, and they're very normalized as a collectible item, which I think is interesting. Like, they're not, like, they're toy-ish, but it's pretty like, oh, actually, I have a pop figure. I forgot I have a pop figure. I do have a pop figure. Okay.
I have one, too. It's just not here.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, you have your Godzilla pop. Isn't that technically a pop?
Oh, yeah, that is a pop.
Okay,
oh, yeah.
Anyway, pop figures that they're very mainstream in the West, and it's a mainstream thing that's like the general understanding is that it is a collector's item. Like, you want the pop figure like to collect, to collect them. Like,
right.
you want maybe all the pop figures from your favorite TV show, or like from whatever superhero thing, or anything, whatever video game. I mean, there's pop figure everything.
Oh yeah.
You know, and they're accessible here, and
they're super cheap.
And they're cheap, and I just think it's an interesting like move to have like such a big like figure name, like a big like kind of like a household figure name, you know, for like if someone is a fan of something, just get them a pop figure for it, like you know. And it's like not, and they're small, they don't take up too much room unless you get 1 billion of them, which some people do, you know.
Adam, my brother.
Yeah, so I just think that's like a kind of an interesting development whenever you think of like the history of collecting.
Yeah, because it's always been seen as this like weird nerdy thing, but now it's so normal with pop figures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one thing that you said is one thing that I want to close on is that are these toys? Mm-hmm. Like pop figures? Maybe not really.
A lot of people keep them in the box now. I mean, like, that's not a toy, that's a figure.
Right. And then, like, the statue figures, they're also, you can't really do much with them.
Yeah, other than look at them.
But what really, I think is really the in-between are model kits and Figmas. Because for all intents and purposes, a Figma is just an action figure.
Yeah, like, just a really expensive action figure.
Like, it has fully movable parts. Mm-hmm. You know, it's literally just a character. A lot of them even come with like weapons and things like that.
Yeah, like different. You can like literally change like their hands to like hold things, or like different gestures, like peace signs.
Right.
And you can change their whole face plate. Maybe now they're smiling, and now they're like neutral, whatever. Like yeah. And
like model kits, they're fully functional.
And you have to build it. You have to put in effort.
Yeah. And I mean, like, from an outside perspective, they're probably seen as just toys because, you know, they're just plastic figures. Mm-hmm. No different than, like, Barbie. Mm-hmm. But to a collector, they have this value to them. Mm-hmm. That's like, no, you're not supposed to play with them. Mm-hmm. You're just supposed to keep them.
To look at them. It's like the first Lego movie. I know you had thoughts about the first Lego movie, since the whole idea is that it's a child wanting to play with like his dad's Lego city set, but his dad like wants it to be perfect and like following the booklet and all that stuff. Yeah, so I think it's just your intent with it. And I mean, if you want to spend $80 on a, you know, action figure Figma, then, you know, play with it to all your heart's content. Yeah, do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. And, with model kits, the thing is that, like, they do just look like toys and, you know, things like that. But honestly...
They're fragile.
They don't stay together very well.
You don't want to play with that.
Yeah. It's kind of like Lego. I think Lego is actually the perfect example of that.
It is, yeah.
Because, like... They are toys. Legos are toys.
Legos are toys, yeah.
But like...
But that $300 piano that he has isn't a toy.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, with firefighter sets, you know, on what... It is really just depends on who owns it. Mm-hmm. Because, like, 8-year-old is going to put it together and play around with it, maybe crash it into stuff. Mm-hmm. But a collector is just going to have it stand still and have it posed and things like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of things could be considered toys if you just put your mind to it.
Yeah.
A lot of things that are collectibles, I guess is what I should say.
I think a lot of collectibles are toys and a lot of toys are collectibles.
Yep, definitely. Yeah. That's definitely it. Because, I mean, there are even people who, like, collect, not to, like, I know I'm using, like, quotation marks, like, but it's mostly, like, whatever, but like people who collect like vintage McDonald toys, like I mean, like you can collect those and now they're cool because it's vintage, you know, but I mean literally somebody got that for free in their Happy Meal, so that's a toy. And
I think that's it for today.
I guess just in closing, anime figures Yeah. I mean, they're cool. They're cool. I wish I want more. I'm excited to look at more in the future whenever I go to conventions. I think it'd be cool. I don't know what I want. I would also be going into it just shopping around and not knowing what I want whenever I go into it. But
it can be a little overwhelming.
Oh, definitely. It's already overwhelming. That's why I don't look at that stuff, man. Yeah. Well, I'm Natalie.
And I'm Jared.
And thank you for tuning in to this episode of Konich-Yeehaw here on the Last Choice Network. Yeah, you can find us anywhere where you listen to a podcast. And you know what? Maybe one of these days we will actually work on the Twitter. But that's all for now. Thank you. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw?